Welcome, Molly. Today, you've chosen to talk about light language, which really inspires me, and I wonder if that was really informed from your upbringing in the mystical southwestern shores or land of England.
That's a really interesting question. I think on a soul level, on a soul contract level, yes, I think definitely the land that has been known by many names over the years, but the land of England or the British Isles, or however it is that these lands, the dragon lines or the ley lines beneath the land are beginning to awaken now in this transition into the age of Aquarius. So being born at this transitional moment, in this moment, this shift, I feel has definitely played a part. But on like a mundane level, the southwest of England, I feel you probably all have experience in the southwest of England, is both really magical and mystical, and very rigid and quite British countryside. Magic and mysticism isn't necessarily something that is at the forefront. It's definitely there, it's bubbling, and it's ancient, and it's present if you know where to look, but it's not something that is overt in many places in the southwest of the UK. Most of the land that I grew up around is agricultural land and farmland and these big, beautiful forests. So I didn't have to look far to discover magic. And I'm really lucky to have been brought up in a family who believed in magic and mysticism and the fairies. And I had a childhood full of beautiful magic and playing in the garden and with the fairies and in the forests. I believe that the answer to that question is probably both, that being on the land itself is sometimes all that's needed for that nudge, that initiation to begin. But the environment within the southwest of England is still very much rooted in kind of like 100, 200 years ago, and can be a little rigid. So it's both.
So, how did you discover that you had a voice?
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day because I started my journey with performing music live when I was about 11 years old. And I was really quite lucky in that my parents were very supportive of that sort of like lust and that want and that desire to explore the arts, the creative arts. But there was also something that was a little bit unstoppable, I think, inside me. I was not born as like a musical prodigy, which I know some children are and were blessed, with like this immense skill out of the gate. And that wasn't really my journey. When I was 11, I wasn't very good. I was your typical 11-year-old. I wasn't like terrible, but just, needed some training up. But there was something so deeply in me that would not let that slide. Like I couldn't not perform music and write music and play, even if I wasn't the best one in the room. And I have this kind of drive to just return to music. It's always been there. There have been a few moments in my life where I've kind of pushed it away or tried to turn away from the music, and it always comes back for me. It always comes back. And so now I'm in my 30s, I've surrendered to the fact that this is something that is intended for me, and I'm moving with that. But I was quite young when I started to sing, about 11, and I was writing songs from that point. So around 20 years now, I've been writing and performing my own music. So it's been quite a journey.
I'm wondering, you talk about that drive. How do you sense that?
That's a beautiful question. To me, it feels like something that I cannot not do. Sorry, that was terrible English. I think you know what I mean. It's something that I couldn't turn away from. And it's like a fire. It burns in, I can feel it in sort of like my upper solar plexus kind of area, a physical sensation, a fire, like an ignition, this drive. I used to be called, like, one of my nicknames was tenacious when I was young, because I wouldn't ever let something go. It was like, if I started something, I would just do it over and over again until I was really good at it and I couldn't let things go like that. So I think it's been just a part of my soul's evolution and my journey here on earth to be in the flow of music in that way. I don't think that I can turn away from it. I think that it's so intrinsically a part of me that I couldn't not do it, if that makes sense. Sorry, my dog's saying hello to the postman.
No, it makes total sense. And that fire and your connection to the earth, I'm assuming, informs your voice?
Yes, definitely. My music is very much inspired by the land itself. And that has always been the place that my music comes from. Until around 3 or 4 years ago, it exclusively came from the earth, and it was the immersion into the landscapes that would bring forward that transmission of the music and of the songs that would come. And it was that way for a very long time. And if I wasn't in kinship with the land, or if I was out of alignment with the land, or I'd been in like an urban environment, so I lived in London for about 3 years, and that was quite dramatic, the impact that had on my music, because there's always nature, but it's quite lacking in London. It's hard to find those places of great beauty. They are there, but they're much harder to find. So yeah, that connection, it very much does come from the landscape. And then around 3 years ago, I started to become aware of the channel also opening in the direction of above. So up until I was about 28, then it was below. The channel was very much rooted down into the land and into the landscapes, especially the British Isles. A lot of my musical background was in fairly traditional Celtic and Brythonic folk music. So I was very rooted in the land and the music of this land. And then around 3 or 4 years ago, I just became aware of melodies beginning to arrive into my channel that felt like they were coming from above, which was a new feeling. It was something new. I was very used to the transmission coming from below, and this felt like something different. To begin with, I started to shut down that channel, because I think that's something that a lot of people go through when they first become aware of their channel opening, is like that sort of like recoiling and the fear of like, oh my gosh, but all these questions. So I kind of like recoiled and tried to shut it down, but it very, very gently kind of held that experience of opening for me in a way that felt like an opening to a new aspect of my higher self. So I was very aware that this light that was coming in was an aspect of me, wasn't like another being or a different dimension. It was me, but a much higher aspect of me that was coming to kind of integrate my consciousness into this higher aspect. So it was this kind of sensing of the light and then softening into that light in surrender that allowed this channel to open. And then there was a flooding of, sometimes they were fully formed songs, sometimes they were melodies, a new language that I personally refer to as the language of light. It could potentially have many names, but the light language began to come at that moment. And it's been a journey since that point of surrendering and sinking into acceptance of this light as a part of me, as a higher aspect of me, and allowing it to come through without trying to control it through like the little mind or through the lowercase s self that's like, oh, I still want this to sound beautiful, or my music has always sounded like this and now it sounds like this and people are going to be like, what's happened? You know, all of these things that start to come, these thoughts and this process. For me, it's been a real sense of surrendering to the light and just understanding that that light and that higher aspect has got a purpose for its integration into this now moment, and just trusting, you know, God's will or the divine will or whatever that, you know, the word is that feels right in your own belief system, but just trusting that divine plan and getting out of the way.
So beautiful. I'm just trying to sense in if this is the right time. Could you share a little bit of your light language with us as we transition into the group?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one of my beloved crystal singing bowls with me. And the crystal bowls were such a strong part of the journey of activation, which we can touch on later. But the crystal sound really supports for anyone listening and is feeling this kind of light coming in. Crystal sound is so supportive for light language, or for this, you know, this channeling that is coming to earth, this light that is coming to earth. So I'll use the crystal bowl to support the sound. So if it feels right for you to do, you can allow the eyes to close, or you can just lower the gaze and just setting the intention to receive what is needed in this moment, maybe taking a deep breath.